love this
Sunday,
book.
yeah?
It's always on Sunday.
Oh, is it? Oh, yeah, what you said.
Oh, if it's any theatre maker,
started selling anything that they find in the environment, and it's also a way of seeing what is around you and the value of the things that are around you, and looking at things that you didn't really look at and try to analyze in detail why they are there and what is the reason for them being there, and playing around with things that we normally pass by each and every day. So a lot of games did a lot of things, and in those games, the kids actually learned a lot. They found themes, they found solutions to things, they found surprises to things.
Another way to perform also, like more interventional, less frontal.
Yeah, so what we were wanting was that we kind of steer them away from this idea of performance as only a
classical
kind of representation. Yeah, so we were kind of guiding them into the field more of like interventions, happenings, interruptions, stuff like this, which they were kind of, they knew about, but maybe didn't have the vocabulary to describe.
Who now have a Facebook page where they start to post now the first...
If you guys want the link, it's so cool. So we prototyped this last year, and there was lots of kind of areas which were getting mixed up, and then we met, and we've now kind of focused more on the mechanism and perfecting it. And so they've just done their first instruction, which was they came up with create a logo to symbolize unity. And then on the Facebook, you see all the 15 groups submitting their work. It is so fascinating to see how the commonalities and the differences.
And so Saturday and Sunday we also do a short presentation. We had a lot of questions ourselves about it, of presentation, how we're going to do it. So at the end we're going to do a kind of public run workshop together with the groups. So it's somewhere in the program. I think it's Saturday in Sibigwa from 1 to 2, I think, at the end. And on Sunday, it's at 2 at the courtyard here. So you're invited to come and have some and have some instructions.
We have less than 5 minutes.
Yes, I think just to make you guys experience this, we would like to have 2 rows together, and you just do a sound and an action of how you feel about the theme of.
Okay, but wait, how are we going to divide them?
So it's row 1 together with row 2.
Okay, so you're a group.
And 4. Row 5 and and then that's the instruction, just to create together a sound and an action of how you feel about the theme of Cradle of Creativity. So row 1 and 2, this row and this row, this row and this row, this row and this row, this row, and you guys can just create something together.
Next.
It's just a sound. Thank you. We'd probably like to...
You guys kind of all join to one group, which is a wonderful metaphor of what we are doing here, actually. We are coming to like a collectivity.
So probably we can start with the first group, and they show us second group, just like that, ta 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 ta, and then... Thank you. Next group. Thank you. Next group. Thank you. Next group. And can we all do our instruction together? 5, 6, 7, 8.
Thank you so much, and hopefully we see each other.
I think the show itself opens up for those kind of young people. So, Gamal, do you want to say something?
Yeah, he said it all. He said it all.
Okay. So, yeah, I don't know what I'm missing, but I think that's the concept came from her, and we made a lot of research in the concept, and we started finding like the characters that are involved in the story. So each of the actors were given a task to create a character that is going to move the story forward.
Similar to what some of the ASSITEJ international members have been doing. They've also just been sharing a little bit of who we are. So we strategized and said that because I'll also be sitting here as an ASSITEJ EC member, I could also just say that a little bit from South Africa, but also sitting in the ASSITEJ SA leadership role. And as an organization, we get to be driven by very important instruments, one of them being the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child, and it enables ways through which young people could be heard through participation. They could be provided with some services, provision, and they could be protected. So when you said you're 23 years old, I found that quite interesting because there are some binaries that tend to be given around age, especially in the areas where I live. And the young people are called Ma 2000, but in a very demeaning way, Ma 2000. And it would actually seem that sometimes they actually don't know anything, Ma 2000. So Ma 2000 have also retaliated, and they say, we are the dinosaurs. Yeah. So I'm like, okay, so the dinosaurs and the Ma 2000, where are we going to end? So I'm very passionate in enabling intergenerational conversations because some of my peers would always be amazed at some of the things that I know. That's because I mixing. And to quote the Minister of Police at the time, said they died dancing. It didn't make sense to me. And to learn more about that, I just thought that it's just a very minute aspect of some of the challenges that we have as a country. And how can one elevate, not just to sit with the young people who passed on, but to explore what the bigger questions that we could be looking at. And so a little bit of the cultural context is in the title, Pens Down, because these young people they're passed on through a culture called Pens Down, where they're celebrating after writing exams. So, ha-ha, H-A-H-A, some people tend to think that it's ha-ha-ha. No, it's not actually. It means ha-ha. It is a sort of expression to say you're being caught off guard. And so part of the dialogue that I'm keen on exploring is how could we claim that we have been caught off guard. So one of the things that I do is also I facilitate learning at Rhodes University. And so I work with young people who are students, but in the evening, I have to be this facilitator. And as a facilitator, I see myself as useless and useful. So I don't know actually how they also felt, because now we had to play together a bit more, because I really had to invest my energy amongst them at 2000, lest I become too dictate.
Okay, I guess I'll start. Everyone else is too shy. When we started this project, I remember I was initially very confused by how Aslalu facilitated and everything. It was a very new way. But we focused a lot on actually speaking to teenagers, to young people. We had workshops with people, with students at a high school near Rhodes University, and we focused a lot on the stories of actual people, at Inyobeni. For those who don't know, the Inyobeni Tavern event was an incident in East London where a bunch of children unfortunately passed away while they were partying during a Pens Down. So we focused a lot on the actual experiences of young people and how alcohol in communities is a very hard thing to battle, especially in certain communities with people of certain backgrounds, but also just as a cultural thing for young people, because it looks so nice. Because we're also young people, we know groove and we know we've been there, we know that it can be fun. So, but also just looking at the bad sides of it, and the bad sides that we experienced when we were younger and that we still experience now, but also the bad sides that other people experience.
Okay, I'll tell you about my experience. Ne? So I initially started acting 2021, and the first time I got casted in a play, we had like a script already planned out, right? So this year I auditioned for Auslalu's play, and it has been a really long road, in a good way though, ne? Because I remember I just came out of a lecture and I had to go to her audition. When I got there, I got cold feet. There was like a lot of people, and most of them, they did drama in high school and primary. And me, on the other hand, I just started drama like the following year, the previous year, I mean. So when we got there and we auditioned, I got casted, and we had to go through to the audition, the rehearsals. I remember the first day we walked in, Auslalu had books on the floor, like novels, ne? A lot of books, bottles, pens, dolls, beer caps, everything. And I was like, okay, what's going on, you know? But that was because I didn't understand that people have different ways of writing. So she was trying to actually help us get out of our comfort zone and actually take part in the story that's going to be told, right? So this happened for like, how many weeks? It was a lot of weeks. Outside you, it was a lot of weeks. What if I become addicted? You know, they're like, no, man, it won't happen like that. And then I tried a shot in yo, yes, sis. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for the language, but yo, I was like, yeah, I talk a lot, I'm so sorry. And then it was really a wonderful journey, honestly. It was really
Didn't know that you tasted it. No, mainly because I don't think we have to die to talk about death.
Yeah. Like the people that they follow on social media, like on Instagram. So we also did some digging into like some well-known influencers, which we can't name because they're controversial, did some funky things out there. But yeah, funky things out there. And just trying to understand who they are and kind of trying to see what could possibly be happening behind the scenes. And also with that, we looked at what are their relationships with other people, like their friends. And one of the stories is how like they sacrifice their friends in order to like gain more following and things like that. And it also kind of helped us inform and kind of create the relationship between Utembegile and Christina. Yeah, so that's something
or saying that can loosely be translated to mean a wise one learns all the time, and therefore I can never assume at any point that I have any answers. And I find that sometimes it gets to be a bit frustrating because people are like, okay, so what should I not say? And I say, what do you want to say? And at the end, what people want to say actually would be much more interesting than if I were to say it. So, for example, I realized that in the script there's like young people like to speak like, which is something that I would never have thought about.
I know what contributions they can have like to the play. Like I think as Tuli said, I think it's important to get feedback or input from young people because this is about them and we're holding a mirror to reflect their experiences and hopefully they feel like they are being represented on stage, right? So we went there and we asked them some questions, we played some games, we basically tried to engage them as much as possible into the process of creating the play. And like some of their dialogue was used in the play, and they came to watch the play and they like saw themselves and they're like, I remember those are my words, and it felt like a very like full circle moment to see their response to the work and see that actually this is a reflection of my experiences and what can I learn from this or why is this happening. So I think it's very important that like the practice of applied theatre, I truly believe that it's quite an important thing to apply like in a workshop space, like to get feedback from people and be like, is this working? Stuff, da da da. So yeah.
Hi, my name is Gabo. So the process for us was kind of fun, but it's as we kept on going, it became very challenging because of the story itself. So Tabang challenged us to bring, I think, 2 characters, and try and find one character that can push the story. So for us, he basically gave us the platform to improvise, and he kind of like directed us, tried to steer us in a certain direction, but allowing us to be able to come up with a more truthful way, I think. Yeah. I think I've said summarized.
Sure, and also it has been challenging because sometimes
Special people, that's my grandfather's name. So you'll know if you're important in my life. I'm a mother. I'm an early childhood practitioner.
This is the precious moment in which you create the dialogue and the common experience. So it's interesting because we are always focusing on the pre-preparation, okay, the experience of the show, and we forget about the after. But basically, it's the after what gives the important part. So this is really, and this is valuable and interesting in any case. That matches also with what you have done, because the instruction is the pre and but the after is what makes the relation. So thank you, really.
I think mine is more of than a question. It's more of a comment, right? And then it's not really dedicated to this panel. It's dedicated to everyone that's here. You know, is on the situation. Okay, let me just be direct. I don't think art spaces should only focus like on this thing of being a youth space or being an ECD space or being an elder. Art spaces should be a community, like it should be accessible to the community. Now, depending on what the program that you are doing, then you are allowing certain group. But then, do not, when you are leading this space or managing this space, let us not lead them in a way that, okay, it's a youth space, because the youth will exclude the children or the elderly. And then once now this information is only known by the youth, and then we work the same way that our government is doing now, which is disempowering, only taking out opportunities that are only for specific age, and then forgetting that there is a whole generation that actually is left without nothing. There is no content for them, that is actually created. Not that there isn't, but it's not so much. So, but then I wanted to speak on the pens down also, the fact that the government, there's solutions also within us. For example, the government did send to every province money so that the Sibigwa, not the Sibigwa thing, sorry guys, I'm thinking Sibigwa, yes, the pens down situation cannot happen again. And then that money was sent to organization, but then did we report back on that? To the government, and then have we engaged with those reports, and then have we gauged the impact in our community? So I know that millions were spent to go and speak to that problem, but then now as a sector, have we engaged with the M&E process of that? Have we actually, because in Philippi, we bought, in Philippi Art Center, we bought the PA system so that we can do a jam session every Sunday, free. And then you know what a jam session is, everyone knows, right? So it's kind of a mini festival thing. And then it happens every week and it's accessible for everyone, right? And then we have from Monday to Thursday, from 3 o'clock to 6 o'clock, we have an open, free studio that you can come and record your song. And then there will be a producer there that will help you. And then this program has been used more than anyone by obviously the ones that will mostly likely be at the Shabin doing what those kids were doing, and then we actually consistent with it, and they only do those events, so they don't feel like in order for them to dance, they have to go to a small hall, because in our art spaces there is that platform for them, and then they can engage, and we are not scared of them, because there's also another thing that when we get this money from an international organization, we start pushing away the people that are supposed to benefit from it by judging them for how they're dressing, the fact that he's hungry, he hasn't eaten, obviously he's agitated. There's a whole lot of miseducation and then we are not impatient with them, and then we'll push them away from our spaces. They are already criminalized, and then they don't feel now they can have fun in these spaces of ours. They can only have fun in those spaces that they end up dying. So we need to make sure that our art spaces are accommodative to them. They cannot be scared of us. Let us not be their parents, but let us be their leaders. Let us be their community leaders, which is it plays on a compassionate role. It means that you're not just relying on the stats you're not seeing them through the lens of the stats of the TV, but you're seeing the child, or you're seeing the youth, or you're seeing the elder for what they are, and then you are tending to them. So I think if we can create our contact spaces to be accommodative to them, then we won't have more of these pens down situations, because the kids will come and do that pens down in our contact center, and no one will die. Cool.
First of all, congratulations on your performance. I was really thrilled with the entire thing. I was just curious, with the ending of the play, was there a particular reason why the ending of the play was the way it was? Because in some way I just felt that as a person watching this, I didn't know if it would be more effective if there was more of a dramatic or traumatic ending, like if one of the characters was in a type of accident or something because of the alcohol that was taking place. But I mean, obviously I was very impressed, but was there a reason why the ending of the play was the way it was? Thank you.
And it tends to feel like it'll never end, because once something happens, especially in the context of high school, in those small communities, that thing becomes your character and you carry it until you leave high school. And then you enter into the space of varsity where you've hated this whole program of maybe 4 or 5 years, and you have access now, and then that's also like comes with its own like set of things where you think you're ready, and like it's obviously great for kids to obviously see this and experience this and like get in contact with all this information that these plays are showing, so that once you get to varsity, then you kind of know what's out there. I mean, kids start drinking at a very young age, even though it's illegal and stuff, but like once you get to varsity, it becomes a completely different ball game where you have access to so many things, even things that you've always looked up to, the influences that you've always wanted to see. You're sitting there next to them in the club, or you guys end up being involved or affiliated.
A social justice project, which is a course that I teach, and therefore a social justice issue had to be addressed. And there is no way in which that issue can be shrouded in anything else. So I found that sometimes I even Nokulunga would know that there are certain games, for example, that I say I can't allow this game to be played, because it could, in a very subtle way, promoting some neoliberalism, some capitalist elements which I don't want. So it's about critical engagement amongst ourselves and critical evaluation, which leads to making choices. When I first got introduced to academia, kind of like a way in theatre, I've always been drawn by the words of Bertolt Brecht, from "Can we change reality?" And therefore, in that way, I really try as much as I can with those that I work with, for and about, to ensure that we first try to see how we use this.
Hi, Kabile.
Hello.